Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Double RPG here, and welcome back to Double RPG Livestream. And all I can say is, my road to the Final Fantasy VII Remake has officially begun with this inaugural edition of Final Fantasy VII through Double RPG Livestream. So, in today's episode, since we are getting started, we are starting off with the Mako 1 reactor, and then we should make our way towards the Sector 5 or Sector 6 slums, one of the two places, as I'm pretty sure that's going to be a vast majority of our playtime going in through those areas. And there are mods that are to be taking place during this playthrough, so be on the lookout for that. So anyways, let's not waste any time, and let me go ahead and launch the game here so we can go ahead and get started. And I have some things that go on through the live stream here, but yeah, like I said, I do have mods that are activated for this game because I wanted to do something new with Final Fantasy VII that I have not done before, and I know that the mods are extremely popular as they tend to bring about a plethora of new things that nobody has ever done before, like rebalancing and offering reasonable difficulty, retranslation, high-res movies, high-res pre-rendered backgrounds, new character models, new weapon models, that kind of stuff, and the whole 9 yards. So you get the idea where this is going. So I take it upon the liberty myself to jump on the bandwagon and to do this. So let's not waste any time and watch the opening intro, shall we? Or the opening movie, I mean. I always get a kick in watching this opening movie. And hello, Master Dragon Slayer 1994. Good to see you, man. Glad you could make it onto the live stream. Hope you have a really fun time tonight. And if any of you are big fans of Final Fantasy VII, and if you're really looking forward to the Final Fantasy VII Remake, why don't you go ahead and leave your comments in the comment section in the Twitch chat about your thoughts on the remake itself. What are some things that you like, that you don't like? I will be explaining in full detail my honest thoughts about the Final Fantasy VII Remake with what I like and what I don't like, as well as the state of JRPGs in general. Here we got a good image of Aerith right there in the opening movie. It's always really nice to see. But yeah, Final Fantasy VII is definitely one of my favorite Japanese RPGs of all time. May not be my most favorite, but it's definitely up there. I would say probably in my top 5. The others within the top 5 are Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, Super Mario RPG, as well as Suikoden 2 on the PlayStation. If you wanted to talk about retro ones, of course, but modern ones, that's more of a one-trick pony. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to come back and tell you all later on. But if you were talking about my top 5 favorite Final Fantasy games of all time, then it's definitely this one, Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy IX. I think 8 is getting up there, and maybe 4 or 12, one of the two. I haven't really played 14 much to really judge an honest opinion, but that is one of those games that I will definitely be getting to when I get around to doing it for my retrospective series. And speaking of which, I'm almost done with the voice recordings for episode number 10, which covers everything Final Fantasy 13 related, and as well as Final Fantasy Type 0, since they both take place in the Fabula Nova Crystallis mythology, or the Final Fantasy multimedia project. But I will be talking about those once as I get around to getting that video worked on and up on YouTube for all of you to view. Now, there's a good number of mods that I'm using, such as Cloud with his weapons, and the retranslation, as well as some new sound effects, like hearing grunts from the melee fighters. Just to add some new flair to what's going on. And yeah, you can definitely see the retranslation and the new interface of what's being said in the dialogue as well as in the battle sequences and all that. But a vast majority of it, I tend to not try to mod that much because I want to try to preserve as much of the original game as possible. But there are some things that, you know, I'm not really fond of from the original, like the models of the in-game battle, and I tried to update that, which you just saw with Cloud as well as the Shin-Ra military police, and of course you'll see that for Barrett as well. But when I was testing out the mods firsthand, back then, I would say probably a few weeks ago, before coming around to doing a live stream series on this game, I wasn't really that too favorable with some of the mods that they showcased. I mean, some of them have grown on to me as I kept playing this game, like the whole battle models that I chose that have a more cel-shaded appearance. But there were just some other ones that I wasn't really big fond of, and even the user interface design of the battle menu is more reminiscent to that of Final Fantasy IX. And all that other good stuff, but I also made it to where there is balanced difficulty. Or not, I wouldn't say balanced difficulty, but reasonable difficulty, where it starts off easy at first, but it gradually gets harder the more you go on. But yeah, so yeah, Final Fantasy VII, definitely, I mean, there's some things that may not have aged well when it comes to the original, but hopefully the remake actually does a lot better. And I have pre-ordered the First Class Edition, and I'm kind of looking forward to doing an unboxing when that comes around in March. But still, that late within the fiscal year, but then again, I'm pretty sure it's going to be selling like gangbusters when it comes out on the PlayStation 4. But whether it comes out on the Xbox One and Nintendo Switch, that's really hard to say, but I wouldn't put it past them to actually get both those versions to come out after the PS4 version release, as well as a PC version through Steam. But some things about the Final Fantasy VII Remake, from what was shown within the last couple months, it's just has been really getting me very intrigued. Like aside from like the graphics being updated with Unreal Engine 4 standards, but also the voice acting, which I wasn't really too sure about at first, but even though with the announcement of most of the original voice cast no longer being present for the Final Fantasy VII Remake, as they replaced them with newer ones for this day and age, because you know because the designers for the game decided that they wanted to have a new voiceover cast because they wanted to portray characters as if they were in their prime, essentially. Like, that's the reason why you don't hear Steve Burton as Cloud Strife or even Bo Billingsley as Barrett Wallace. And for those of you who don't know Bo Billingsley, he plays Jet Black in Cowboy Bebop. Pretty good voice for the character too, if I do say so myself. And Steve Burton, he's one of the main characters. He plays one of the main characters in the soap opera General Hospital. So, yeah. So they got Cody Christian, who's the new voice of Cloud, and he's been in more TV roles. Like a lot of the people that they got for the voice cast in the Final Fantasy VII Remake, for Part 1 at least, are in TV, the more modern TV roles, like the guy who they have playing as Superman in Supergirl. He is the new voice of Sephiroth after George Newbern, which George Newbern actually played Superman in some of the animated adaptations, and as well as Superman in the Injustice games done by NetherRealm Studios. So that's the Superman you listen in that game. In those games, as well in stuff like Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, as well as the Kingdom Hearts 2, and even the Dissidia games. But you won't hear him in the Final Fantasy VII Remake, as well as the others, and you won't even hear Rachel A. Cook as Tifa, or even Mina Suvari or Andrea Bowen as Aerith. But, I could definitely see why the designers would want to bring in new voiceovers to try to fit within the characters, because, the original VAs, they're getting older, and I'm sure that Yoshinori Kitase and Tetsuya Nomura and Shigeru Nojima and all those people who are currently working on the remake, since a vast majority of the designers are veterans who worked on the original, that they would want to get new voiceovers to be portrayed in their more younger days, because they're not being portrayed in like spin-off form or even in say a compilation of Final Fantasy VII type of material. But yeah, you want to make it fresh for today's standards. I mean, it would have been nice to hear the old voice cast for the new for the remake, but you know, after watching the trailer at during the Sony State of Play in May, and then their E3 the Square Enix's press conference back last month, it really does make me a believer that the remake is actually going to do very, very exceptionally well. And I really do like it when remakes, they actually bring about a lot of new into their game and not just act as a fresh coat of paint, because that is the problem that I have with remakes. If they treat themselves as just a fresh coat of paint without bringing about a lot of new into the experience, then I'd say that the remake is not going to do very self upon arrival. I mean, seriously. And a lot more remakes should be taking a lot more cues from, say, Final Fantasy VII Remake, or if you want to talk about a remake of a game that was done in the past, then look at something like Resident Evil HD Remaster. Or not HD Remaster, but the remake that came out on the GameCube back in 2002. That game definitely made Resident Evil a much more enjoyable experience for me anyway, and I feel that it is truly the definitive version of that game, which, you know, the Resident Evil HD Remaster is the HD re-release of the of the GameCube game. Because there's a lot of things about the original Resident Evil on the PlayStation that I did not really like the voice acting, for instance, and the writing. It just felt too whack. And the game itself, it seemed like there was really no centered direction or a full-on direction for it. I mean, obviously they made the game because they needed to start, establish the franchise somewhere, but at the same time, it's just like, there's some of the things that they end up doing for the remake on the GameCube. It actually feels like it belongs in that universe, if you know what I mean. I mean, even with the Resident Evil 2 remake, I mean, there are some things that I do like. I'm not really a big fan of the dialogue, as they made it more realistic, which I really do enjoy the camp factor of the previous games, because video games, in my opinion, they're meant to be an escape from reality. And they're not meant to be taken seriously, for that matter. And when they try to incorporate more things like realism into those games, like with the dialogue and all that, it kind of feels like it takes away from what makes the originals, it takes away from what made the original game so appealing. I mean, I still really like Resident Evil 2 Remake for what it is, but it's just, when it comes to the dialogue, I just wasn't a really big fan of it. Because it was just too realistic for my eyes. I mean, and if you want to take a look at a game where it got itself a remake treatment, but I felt that was completely necessary, then probably Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes definitely comes to my mind. I mean, it's not a bad game per se, but if you ask me, I wasn't really a big fan. I didn't really find that whole thing where they just made it a fresh coat of paint and then added the mechanics of Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty into the whole experience. I was really expecting more out of that. So, yeah, when it comes to remakes, I expect there to be more than just being a fresh coat of paint, which is why I'm cautiously, maybe not cautiously optimistic, but much more optimistic than I was when I saw the State of Play trailer, because even though they are taking some influences from the Final Fantasy XIII trilogy, like the whole thing with the stagger system and with the more action-oriented approach of Final Fantasy 15, which definitely looks a lot better in my eyes, because even though I do enjoy 15 to certain extents, I felt that the action elements were not the best that they could have been. And as you can see in the menu here, I mean, the menu did get a revamp too. That was another one of the mods that I actually put in for here. But yeah, so the remake itself, I definitely think it's going to be doing very well. Now, I know a lot of people are pretty miffed that it's currently a PlayStation 4 exclusive for the time being, because I'm pretty sure that Sony's definitely putting a lot of money to keep the game exclusive, or for at least a time exclusive at this time. But eventually, I definitely see the game coming to other platforms. I mean, if the Nintendo Switch Pro is a thing that's going to be released next year, then I definitely see that Final Fantasy VII Remake actually has a better chance on ending up on something like that, instead of, you know, the vanilla Nintendo Switch, or even the upcoming Nintendo Switch Lite. It's always good when there's possibilities that jump up from time to time like that. But some of the stuff about the remake I really like, especially when it comes to the character designs. I really don't even have any problems with them at all. I know a lot of people were very highly critical when they revealed Tifa last month, Tifa Lockhart. Definitely one of my favorite waifus in video games. But when they revealed her, a lot of people were not really that too happy that she was wearing a sports bra and spankies, basically just like black shorts underneath her skirt, as well as the bra, or the sports bra on top of her white top, because of her being a bar hostess and all. And with Square Enix's ethics department saying that that they're not going to make her breast jiggle for the remake. And, you know, I could definitely see where they're coming from, because Final Fantasy VII, it's not an M-rated game by any means, as it's more of a teen-rated game, or teen-rated experience. But, you know, I feel that there are some things that they've done in the past, which I feel that they were okay for teen ratings. Like, say, for instance, Tifa's original model in Dissidia 012, or Duodecim Final Fantasy on the PSP. And when you take a look at what they did for her in Dissidia Final Fantasy NT, or even Dissidia Final Fantasy 2015, the arcade game, there are just some things about her inclusion in that I really don't... Well, just some things in the game that I'm really not a big fan of, like them being a bit more censor-heavy with certain things. Now, I could definitely... Now, when it comes to the things that they're more censored with, it's definitely more of the female aspect, because of things that most females have been, or I would say social justice warriors have been making a big, huge stink about when it comes to the representation of females. And, you know, for something like Dissidia Final Fantasy NT with Tifa's reveal, you know, I can definitely understand why, but at the same time, Team Ninja is actually the developer, or the co-developer behind that game, or the developer of that game, and it really doesn't make any sense why they would, you know, implement some censorship into Tifa Lockhart to a certain degree, when they are more famous for their Dead or Alive series, which they are more explicit with their with the lewdness and just the more mature type of eye candy that they showcase. So, yeah, like I said, there's just some things that I really don't understand what Square Enix is thinking when it comes to their ethics department. Now, like I said, I have nothing against how Tifa was portrayed in the reveal for the Final Fantasy VII Remake, as I really do think that she looks very lovely and, you know, very attractive still. And, you know, for how she was portrayed in the trailer, for when it comes to battles, you know, with her wearing that extra flair, like the sports bra and the spankies, it actually gives her more mobility for her as a fighter. Makes her a more agile fighter. But I am really... But, you know, for everything else that that has not been shown yet, like they did show a little bit of some of the things that you could do that were not present in the original, like the whole new bike section for when you and the rest of Avalanche are trying to get away from the Shin-Ra military police after bombing the Sector 1 Mako reactor. I thought that was actually pretty cool. And that whole thing with, like, the black clouds that were coming around both Cloud and Aerith in that new trailer that was shown during E3 2019, it was just... I couldn't be any more happier. That, you know, that they're trying to do new stuff, like the main people who are working on it. Now, even though that he's no longer working on the Final Fantasy series, I still feel that Hironobu Sakaguchi, the original creator, should have had a hand in the development side of the game. Like, there should have been a collaboration between Square Enix and Mistwalker Studios when it came to Final Fantasy VII Remake, because Hironobu Sakaguchi was involved in the production of the original Final Fantasy VII to a certain degree before his promotion to more corporate level type of jobs within the company of Square at the time when this game was being made. Like, he was responsible with both Tetsuya Nomura, with him and Tetsuya Nomura working on the base story for this game, while Yoshinori Kitase and Kazushige Nojima wrote the whole scenario. And all four of those guys together they created Cloud, and Hironobu Sakaguchi was the one who created Aerith, along with Kazushige Nojima, and Tetsuya Nomura was the one who created Sephiroth, along with Kazushige Nojima. So it would have been nice that, you know, a vast majority of all the legendary members got together. Like, I feel that's the only person who isn't a part of the remake's development that he should have had a role in it, or should have had a hand in its development, is the original creator Hironobu Sakaguchi. I mean, they got Nobuo Uematsu working on the music for Final Fantasy VII Remake, well, at least the first part. Whether or not if he becomes a part of the future parts, it remains to be seen. But maybe not. They'll probably be using other musicians to cover the other parts. But if he remains fully dedicated to working on the music for all all the episodes of the remake, then I definitely see no problem with it at all. But then again, like I said, Nobuo Uematsu is getting up there with his age, and he did take time off from last year, before the end of last year, like a few months before the end of last year, because of exhaustion. And the guy definitely works himself to death. Well, maybe not to death, but he works a lot when it comes to him trying to put on a really great performance with either the concerts that he mostly does since he's become freelance, or the projects he does compositions for. So yeah, I felt that you get what I mean by saying that all the legacy members should have had a hand in Final Fantasy VII Remake's development. So I feel that Hironobu Sakaguchi, and possibly to an extent too, Yoshitaka Amano, who was the original character designer for the first 6 Final Fantasy games before Nomura took over for a vast majority of the franchise, that all the legacy members should have gotten together to, you know, work on the game. But at the same time, I can digress that notion, because I am looking forward to the Final Fantasy VII Remake regardless. But from everything with what is shown, like I said, I'm just very happy. Now, when it comes to the state of RPGs in general, in this day and age, I feel that a lot of them are not really being more catered for the for the global audience in mind, as they are mostly catered. I mean, mostly the ones on the Japanese side are more catered towards the Japanese otaku in mind. Because when you take a look at the majority of the Japanese RPGs in this day and age, you can definitely see that they have those certain tropes within, Japan's media that tend to stray away a lot of Westerners who really enjoyed Japanese RPGs back in the day. I mean, the ones that were done back in the day during the late 80s and 90s and the early 2000s, they were just phenomenal for what they were because they not only were appealing to themselves, but they were trying to appeal to a global audience. And that's what made them so well back in the day, but nowadays it's like it's the complete opposite. I mean, there was a handful that still appeals to a global audience, like the Atlas games, for instance, but at the same time, it seems like that when it comes to games like Persona and say Shin Megami Tensei, or when it comes to Square Enix, when it comes to the more recent Final Fantasy games, that they've been more catered towards the Japanese audience in mind instead of a worldwide audience. But then again, anybody could make the argument that the games are originally developed in Japan, so they are trying to remain true to themselves. Which, that I can definitely agree with, but at the same time, I mean, if you're releasing those games for a worldwide audience, then you got to abide by the certain standards for the worldwide audience than just the Japanese in mind. And speaking of which, I know I may not be the minority here, but when it comes to Japanese RPGs in this day and age, aside from a handful that still remain true to themselves with difficulty and all that, a lot of the games in this day and age, well, Japanese RPGs in this day and age, they've been mostly just casual or watered down experiences to appeal more to casuals. And, it's really interesting too, because last night I was actually watching a video from Maximilian Dude on YouTube, which I'm pretty sure a lot of you know who he is. He's a really prominent member of the fighting game community who delivers a lot of good insight about the state of of fighting games in general, as well as doing highlights and posting stuff from fighting games that he plays quite a lot. And he described that when it comes to fighting games in this day and age, a lot of them have been nerfed because of companies trying to appeal more towards the casual audience. But that whole fantasy where companies think that they can try to garner more of an audience into their games just for the sake of sales, it's completely null and void, because the only way that fighting games can strive even better in this day and age is because of numerous aspects, and some of those aspects are content, which is really key for fighting games in general, because when it comes to content, whenever a game releases, it seems like they are mostly bare bones instead of being fully packaged games. Now, there is one prime example of a fighting game that is fully packaged that a lot of people really enjoy, and, it still has garnered a really massive, appreciation from a lot of people, and that is the recent Super Smash Bros. Ultimate on Nintendo Switch, because of numerous reasons. One, the whole roster of all the characters who appeared in all the games appears in Ultimate on the Nintendo Switch. All the stages are there, including their Omega renditions. There is a plethora of new modes not seen in the other that were seen in the other versions, but there's also a plethora of new ones not seen in the others. And the whole and it balances itself evenly between both casuals and core gamers. Like, for casuals, they can, if they're not really that big into fighting games, and when they're playing a game like Smash Ultimate, that they can start off somewhere. They can start off somewhere fresh with like the whole single player mode, where that's basically the same like the adventure mode or the Subspace Emissary mode that was done for Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Is that they can definitely find their start from there, and then they can participate in the events that take place, since, there's that whole games as a service aspect that takes effect. But when they get to a point where they feel like they need to get better, then they can challenge themselves towards another tier within the difficulty to where they can actually keep improving themselves to get better than where they originally are. You see, and when it comes to, that's the type of thing you want to expect in fighting games in general, is that you want to find that fine balance between difficulty as well as content, the playable characters that are available, and all that good stuff. But you also want to add in something, and I think this is another one of the things that, but this is one of the things that I think he forgot to mention during his time with talking about this whole state of the fighting games in general, with them being very nerfed for this day and age, is that a lot of fighting games, they seem like when they're portrayed as games as a service, when fighting games, I mean, when they have a roster of characters all present, instead of having some of them being unlockable by playing through the the different mode, like the arcade mode or story mode of anything, I just feel that having all the characters unlocked at the get-go, that really ruins the experience of bringing about replay value. Because one of the things you have to do with fighting games is you want to make sure that there are unlockables that ensures that replay value. Because trying to unlock every single character, every stage, and just a plethora of things just to elongate the experience, that's what makes fighting games king, or just top tier for the world. Which is why back in the day I really enjoyed games like Soul Calibur and the Tekken franchise, because they would always have those little incentives. Not only do you appeal to core gamers who are really big into fighting games, but you also appeal to casuals for trying to, get into the whole notion where they can just pick up and play the game, as well as bringing about a hook just to get more and more characters unlocked, and for those casuals to keep playing, as well as the core gamers too. So that way, not only are you playing as different characters, but you can also learn their movesets and, just learn everything that you can about them. And it only adds more to the charm of fighting games in general. But ever since the high definition gaming, where they just made the characters all unlocked and all the stages unlocked, and they only are adding in characters which, whether if they are rarely new or occasionally more legacy characters in that sense as downloadable content, I'm sorry, it's just doing that. It's just, you make fighting games not that fun anymore. And I believe that's one of the reasons why fighting games in general are just failing. It's because of that whole thing where, companies like Capcom and Bandai Namco, and possibly to an extent Arc System Works, even though Arc System Works has done a great job with their games, with balancing between the appeal to both casuals and the core gamers, I believe there are some things like the upcoming Granblue Fantasy Versus, where I don't feel, where they just make it more of a casual experience as possible, that chances of that game succeeding is probably going to be slim to none when it releases. I hope that the game does well, sales-wise, and I hope it appeals to a lot of people, but I just can't vouch that the game is actually going to do well, and that's definitely something that I agree with Maximilian Dude on. But when it comes to RPGs in general, I can definitely see it being in a very similar vein, especially when it comes to a lot of things within the genre. Like when it comes to having memorable characters, and you have inspirational stories, you have creative worlds, compelling soundtracks, and inventive gameplay mechanics. It's just, you need to have all those in role-playing games in this day and age. You can't just rely on the tropes with what, the Japanese or even the Western audiences try to do for their own audience. You have to appeal to all global standards if you want to make a game succeed well when it releases. Anyway, I could talk more about this very shortly, but we got ourselves a boss that we need to fight, and here we have Guard Scorpion, the first boss in the game. And when you're fighting this boss, I think it's the only boss that has the music to the bombing mission music when you're fighting against him, or fighting against it rather. But this is a very fun boss to fight too. And if you notice from the footage that they showed on the Final Fantasy VII Remake during the Square Enix press conference, the Guard Scorpion has now been renamed as the Guard Scorpion. I mean the Scorpion Sentinel. Now I'm not sure if they call the Guard Scorpion in this as the Guard Scorpion or the Scorpion Sentinel or whatnot, but I wouldn't be surprised if they actually did call it the Scorpion Sentinel, but not really too sure myself. Okay, it's gonna raise its tail. Here it goes. So yeah, if you attack the Guard Scorpion while its tail is up, it will counter with its laser. The laser, as Dr. Evil would say in Austin Powers. So make sure when its tail goes back down, that's when you can start attacking again. But yeah, when it comes to when it comes to RPGs, as I said, you gotta have inspirational stories, creative worlds, memorable characters, compelling soundtracks, content, and just the whole 9 yards in order to make them very appealing. I mean, there are a handful that still do that in this game. This day and age, like the Legend of Heroes games by Nihon Falcom. When it comes to the Trails of Cold Steel games that they have available right now. But other ones like I would say Final Fantasy XV, while a fun game in certain areas, but with it mostly appealing towards casuals, I felt that was the game's biggest Achilles heel for first-timers, because, I mean, sure, a company wants to try to go for sales because they try to streamline their games more and more. I feel that completely ruins the message with what made those games so appealing to begin with back in the day. I'm afraid to play over half the Nintendo indie games. Well, what do you mean? I mean, I could definitely see what you mean, Master Dragon Slayer, because when it comes to some of the indie games done on the Nintendo devices, since indie games really have done well on the Nintendo Switch in these more recent times, as well as the 3DS, before the 3DS phases out, obviously. But some of the more recent games, like Shovel Knight, and even I would say Hollow Knight, as well as Dead Cells. Some of the ones that they actually more recently introduced, they've actually done well. But when it comes to most of the other indie games that are on the Nintendo Switch eShop, I can definitely see where you're coming from in terms of why you would be afraid, because they're mostly copy and paste of old genres done for those games. But as there's really not that much innovation when it comes to trying out new ideas. But for me personally, I would, there are a good handful of indie games that, that really appeals to me. Like, I would say that probably a more recent indie game that really has appealed to me greatly would have to be, That is a very good question. I think that's something I'll have to come back with you upon, but because even though I really should be getting into the whole notion of continuing to play indie games, there really haven't been that many that kept me hooked. But I'm not saying that they're bad, but I'm just saying that they could do better with trying to appeal to me more as a gamer. Like one of the indie games that's actually really fun. I can't really remember the name of it, but it's actually created by the guy who actually worked on the Jet Grind radio games. He actually has this he has this hybrid between like I can't remember what it was, but I think it's like a fighting game to that of like something like that's very similar to Windjammers, where you have this projectile that you have to throw at your opponent. Like I said, the name of it escapes me, but as I can't remember exactly what it is. But it just with that graphical style, with it being a 3D game with its own take on the specific genre that it's going for, it's just, I think it's definitely a very underrated game in my eyes. And more indie games need to take more inspiration than just doing 8-bit games in general, because if you ask me, I feel that there's way too many 8-bit indie games in this day and age. And that if they're not really doing any more genres, or I wouldn't say genres, but if they're not really doing any more graphics options, like more 3D or more cell shading or more 16-bit graphics or 32-bit graphics for that matter, I feel that they're really I just feel that they're really they're just really straying away from their true potential, or I wouldn't say straying away, but I would say more wasting their potential in that regard. Anyway, so we got done with the Sector 1 reactor. And as you can see, I modded the game to where the characters don't even have anything on their mouths or anything like that, because I think that the whole thing where the main characters have just a closed mouth, where you can see their closed mouth, and where the non-playable characters actually have like this open mouth when when you see them, it just looked really, really tacky. And I know that they fixed that in the console re-releases of the PC version that released on Steam, where that was the version that they released on the PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and Xbox One, where they actually fixed the mouths on the non-playable characters to where you don't see them have that big open mouth like this, where it's like that they're saying "oh," because, like I said, it's just it looked god-awful. And like I said, I wasn't really a particular fan of how the main characters had just closed mouths, as you could just plainly see in the modern re-releases of this game, which was something that was prevalent in the PC version back in the day too, if I remember correctly. Now, when I'm going through this whole game, I am going to be 100% completing it, meaning I'm going to be fighting all of the bosses and super bosses. So yes, you will see me take on Emerald Weapon and Ruby Weapon when I get around to fighting them. But that'll be quite a while. And I will be trying to get all the materia too. Even Alexander, if I can't get him in the snowy that snowy place where it's snowing all the time before you get to the Great Cliffs, before the Great Northern Cave, then I will definitely get him at Bone Village. I feel like Nintendo is pushing more Nintendo indies instead of first-party Nintendo games. I would say yes and no, because when it comes to first-party Nintendo games, I'd say I can definitely see where you're coming from, Master Dragon Slayer. But at the same time, I see that Nintendo pushing for more indie games is actually a good thing, because you want to try to do your best to appeal more to the little guys too. And I think that's something that they, still maintain true to their business philosophy, especially when they worked with second-party developers back in the day when we were growing up, like like Rare, for instance. Like, even though Rare still remained independent even after Nintendo bought 49% of all their shares to make them a second-party developer exclusive under them, that they were working very closely with them to make sure that they would grow. So Nintendo doing that for indies in this day and age, where they're pushing for more of their games to be promoted on the eShop. It's actually a good thing. Late for our appointment? Damn right you're late. Based on what I've been seeing from the retranslation that I added as a mod, I actually really do like it. But I noticed that Barrett really has not been that much of a potty mouth like he has been in the original. It was him and Sid who were the potty mouths in the original, and I'm kind of interested to see how Sid is whenever we get to him. Cloud, it's pitch black from all that dirt you got from that mission. But, it's great to see a game like this in Final Fantasy VIII remastered, as well as Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy X, and Final Fantasy XII, making it on the Nintendo Switch. A Nintendo console for the first time in quite a long time. So we're getting a showcase of the Mako City Midgar. Midgar, it's a very memorable location for any video game. Do you think they should bring all Zelda games to the Switch? What do you mean all Zelda games? Like a compilation of all the Zelda games? Because how they've been re-releasing all the Zelda games from the past, between the NES to the Nintendo 64 through the Virtual Console. I definitely see that was really great. But if they bring others like Wind Waker HD, Twilight Princess HD, as well as Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, as well as Skyward Sword to the Nintendo Switch, I can definitely see that being really fun and really awesome too. Yeah, and I would buy it too. But, I'm kind of at that point where I would say companies doing re-releases of older games, just bringing them on newer generations of hardware, is just nothing but cash grabs. Which, essentially that's what they are. Just cash grabs to get more money and get more people interested in playing their games if they missed them out in the first time. But at the same time, I'm just like... I'm kind of like at that point where it's like, I really don't even care about re-releases anymore. I want to see more new. I mean, it's really hard to for there to be a lot more new when you have a lot of these publishers who are trying to do their best to waste like a cesspool of money just to make their games all pretty, but with no with no stance of them feeling like completed experiences. Because a lot of the games that are released in this day and age, whether they come from a first party or a third party publisher, they just feel like they're incomplete by most. Which I feel that it's not releasing more new and being more innovative with the types of games that people should make that really is limiting creativity. And hey there, Fighter Cows, welcome to the stream. It is the only reason they're against emulation is because they want to still make their money on 20-year-old games. Yes, exactly. But at the same time, I would say that emulation is still necessary to preserve the source code of old games, in case if a company loses theirs due to an unfortunate circumstance like an earthquake, which, you know, a lot of Japan has really been prone for losing most of their older games, is because of earthquakes, and then all the data they saved is completely just taken away. Just let me play my old games on emulation. I'll put down the money if it's a true remaster or remake like Final Fantasy VII. And I know, and that's a good thing that you say that too, Fighter Cows, because I know that you're really looking forward to Final Fantasy VIII Remastered when it comes out later this year. Now, I have a hunch that the Final Fantasy VIII Remaster is actually coming out in September to coincide with the original Final Fantasy VIII's 20th anniversary, which definitely makes sense. Heh, want to see your childhood friend that bad, huh? Out of my way. Hey, calm down. You'll attract attention. Alright, go on. And you know, and one of the things too that it's just I'm really when going, well, if it isn't a little Marlin, aren't you? One of the things too, I was really I'm really anyway, I lost my train of thought here. But anyways, as I was saying, but one of the companies who's actually been trying to do more with brand new instead of re-releasing their back catalog, instead of just re-releasing their back catalog, is Sega, because they have been doing the Yakuza games, and they've also had the new Judgment that came out. They have a brand new Panzer Dragoon. Well, they have a Panzer Dragoon remake, as well as and even Streets of Rage 4 for that matter. And they have that new Soccer Wars game that's coming out. I really like it when companies try to expand more on new than just remaining to old. And Sega has been really making quite a turnaround in this day and age. And I guess you could say Square Enix to an extent too, but there are some things that they still have squandered on, which I really am not a big fan of. Yeah, I agree with that. Oh, definitely. I mean, if you ask me, I feel that one of the things that they actually need to do better is actually having better better incentive to make sure that the games done for the Western side should be given a lot of time, just like the Japanese side, so that way they can actually so that way that they can actually be actually fully playable and not that buggy or glitched when they release, because I feel that Square Enix not doing that for because, well, that since they've been doing that for quite a while with not giving the Western development studios a whole lot of time to get their games done, like like Eidos Montreal when it comes to the Deus Ex games, or even the upcoming new Avengers game that's being developed by them. I have a really strong feeling that that the Avengers game is probably not going to do that well when it releases. And hello, Lord Doom! Welcome to the stream! I can't wait till we see all the weird stuff this game has in it remade and shown to the world. Oh yeah, me too. I'm really surprised to see you here in the stream too. And as you can see, I do have the retranslation mod going on for this game. But when it comes to this game, I'm really looking forward to what all they have to showcase. I think the next time we're going to be getting an update for... I got a phone dying on my phone. Doesn't like to charge while on. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. So you got to take off. Thanks, Master Dragon Slayer. Hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow night. So anyway, as I was saying, I think that the next time we're going to be getting an update, update to this game is going to be at San Diego Comic-Con, but it probably won't be that substantial as the next update that'll come after that. I think the next time we'll get a very significant update towards Final Fantasy VII Remake is actually going to be probably during... Probably the next time we'll get an update on Final Fantasy VII Remake, a big, huge, substantial update is actually going to be at Gamescom coming up in August. And then the next big one that'll come after that is going to be during the Tokyo Game Show. And then after that, probably the next huge update is probably going to be at the Game Awards this December. And that's the thing about this original game, is just those old hoof hands. I mean, I do like the chibi appearance of the characters that they're portrayed in this game, but those hoof hands, they're like... so bad. So bad. I mean, even though this game, even though that the characters' hands are all hoof hands, you gotta remember, when Final Fantasy VIII released, if you bought the PC version, you can definitely see that the character models are they don't look real good when the graphics are fully like smoothed in that game, which is why I actually am looking forward more to the remaster, because the character models actually look like they were just completely remade from the ground up to be more modern with the times. I remember seeing the CG as a kid and seeing the in-game models, and I was like, oh god, Cloud's part donkey. Yes, he is. I would say a lot of them are part donkey in a sense. But I prefer the human character models in 8. I gotta see more of Final Fantasy VIII Remastered with what the human characters are gonna look like in the fields, because, I mean, based on what we saw from the footage from E3 2019, I actually am looking forward. I actually have a more favorable opinion that the game will actually do well with its models. But that whole rumor about voice acting in the game, I really think that's going to be a big game changer for like old games that haven't had voice acting before, but now are just implementing them into their re-releases. That should be a deal breaker for games going forward, that they should you know, if they were going to re-release their, you know, old games but for newer generations of hardware, they should incorporate some new incentives like voice acting, for instance. Remember on a CRT TV, they didn't look too bad, but the remaster will fix that, I hope. I'm pretty sure they'll fix that. Promise is a promise. Here, take it. 1,500 gil. Your savings. You can do better than that. Got the next job lined up, Barrett? Double it. 3,000. What did you just say? It's okay, it's okay. Listen. We need all the help we can get, right? Uh-huh. The rest is for Marlene's schooling. 2,000. I like Chibis. I like World of Final Fantasy, but boy, FF7 hoof hands. That's like whenever a lot of people talk about Final Fantasy VII in this day and age, the original, they just talk about the hoof hands. But yeah, they do look better in World of Final Fantasy with their chibi forms. Our target's Mako Reactor 5. Head for the station. I'll fill you in on the train. Cloud, before the next mission, I got something I need to ask. See, thing is, I don't really know how materia works. I'll give you the one we found. Just teach me how to use it. Well, okay. My mom even liked World of Final Fantasy. Well, hey, that's cool. Did you ever get the game, Fighter Chaos? If you did, then you should still pick up the Maxima DLC that includes all the bonus. And she's not a fan of RPGs. Oh, yeah. I remember you telling me about that, too. We get a little bit of tutorials that are going on here, but I won't be going through the whole tutorial thing that much in this first episode. Yeah, I got it on sale months ago. Oh, that's cool. So hopefully you'll get the Maxima DLC at some point. Or if you got the Maxima DLC already. Now look at my weapon here. Or my name's not Cloud Strife. Your name's Cloud Strife? That's a badass name. I just had to make that line from episode 25 of Final Fantasy VII Machine Abridged from Team 4-Star. Because Barrett never knew what Cloud's last name was. Just the way how he said, you know, your name's Cloud? That's a... You know, with him saying, that's a kick butt name or whatever. Well, you know, not like that, but just the delivery of that line is what cracked me up. Cloud Sky. Cloud Sky. By Sky, don't you mean Sora, Fighter Cows? You know, one of the things that a lot of people that I've been reading up on, one of the things that they criticize when it comes to characters is most of their names have been more Latin as of lately. But I think we also got to remember, too, that the Latin overtones have been a prevalent thing within the early days of the franchise as well, especially when it comes to the different renditions of the Chocobo theme. Who's Sora? This is just FF7. Sora, I think you're forgetting Kingdom Hearts, but I'm pretty sure gratuitous Latin. But yeah, I will agree that I do believe that the Latin overtones in the more recent installments, especially when it comes to people like Tetsuya Nomura or Yoshinori Kitase that they have been way too fixated. Or I wouldn't say fixated, but that they've just been shoved down our throats way, way too often. Okay, that's about it. But there are some things that I wish for them to try out a lot more. I mean, if there's one thing that Final Fantasy XII actually has done that is not, fully Latin, fully for the Latin tones, it actually does more with expanding on the different cultures within the, along the Mediterranean, which is something that I actually like about Final Fantasy XII. As someone whose family started from a Roman legion and all that, even I'm like, that's too much Latin, bro. And would you look at that? Marlene is running a bar by herself. You have a little girl running a bar. Barrett? She has a gun. It's fine. Oh. She has a gun. She's fine. She has a gun and she's fine. I don't know about that, Lord Doom. I mean, with a little girl being in possession of a weapon, it's like, ugh. I don't think she would even think twice about using a gun. I think her dad would... I think Barrett would be afraid for her life, afraid for his life for his little girl to be like that. I think he would... Like I said, I think he would crap himself if that were to happen. Let's go ahead and equip the different bangles just to increase our defenses a little bit. Restore. I probably will get rid of ice and have the all ability for you, and then I will give you ice. Just kind of blend out the materia a little bit. And I'll probably give Barrett fire once we get close, once we buy it. Dad told me I just need to point out the bad guys to make them go away. Yeah, that is true. I mean, a little girl with a handgun like Marlene. Now that'd be a twist if they actually showed that for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Marlene won't be that much of a helpless little girl anymore. I wonder who they're going to get to voice Marlene in the Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's probably not going to be Ariel Winter, because Ariel Winter has grown pretty much as well. She was the voice of Marlene in Final Fantasy VII Advent Children Complete back in 2009, 10 years ago. And she was the voice of Mog in both Final Fantasy XIII-2 Lightning Returns, as well as Final Fantasy Type 0 HD. Okay, there's fire. You have one for Barrett. He needs to have his own materia. And I'm very interested with whatever the new types of materia that they're going to conceive for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Hopefully they bring about more than what they already have, which I'm pretty sure they will. I've never been in here. Firagama, Firagamaja, Firagama, Fyraga Malakalet, Omega Fyraga Supreme, Omega Fyraga Supreme Bahamut. Yeah, Bahamut. Or Bahamut, as they tend to call him more in the Final Fantasy games in this day and age. But I know that in Final Fantasy XIII, they refer to him as Bahamut. And even I like to call... Even I like to call Bahamut as Bahamut and not Bahamut, because I know they, call him Bahamut for a reason, to try to maintain tradition with how they pronounce the deity's name, but the deity's name, but personally, I just feel that calling it Bahamut is just it just sounds more like what a Westerner would say. Fyraga Arcade Edition plus Ultra Day 1 Edition. Yep. Fire Pro Wrestling materia would end the world. Yeah, it would. That'd be like the ultimate summon materia that one-ups itself over Knights of the Round. It's like, even if you're at level 1 and you use that materia, I guarantee you that the whole world of Gaia would just crumble before your knee, just bow down before you all. It just summons Galactus and he murders the planet. Yep. Bahamut is Arabic, I believe. Behemoth in English. Behemoth is Spanish. Yeah. Bahamut is an Arab. It is from is an Arabic type of deity. But the thing is, from what I recall, Bahamut isn't really a dragon in Arabic mythology. I think it was more portrayed as like a fish or something, or like a sea serpent. I'm not entirely certain. Hey, Cloud's fired up about work. Yeah, I guess I gotta explain. Jesse's probably told you, there's an inspection at the plate boundary. It's a system that performs an ID check on each car. Which Shin-Ra loves to boast about, of course. Along with Leviathan. It's a giant land animal. Yes, it is. I don't know where that whole thing where they made Bahamut and Leviathan for what they are, in the Final Fantasy games instead of being true. I mean, I guess they needed to try and make them a bit more, make them stand out a lot more in video games than just remaining true to the original material. It's a giant land animal. Yeah, a giant land animal. Mm-hmm. So I guess they technically got Leviathan somewhat correct. They have to change things, Video is, yeah. Anyway, we need to get out of this, we need to get out of this hellhole of the trains. What's plan B? Now, before I run... get that high potion before we move any further. And then when they make the movie, they have to change things even more. Oh god, yes they do. We in the clear? Not yet. The next check starts soon. If they find us, we're finished. But don't worry, if we keep moving up the train, we should be alright. Punches that guy so we can get through. Hey, you... give that back to me. I gotta get out of that car, or else I'm gonna get in trouble here. Oh man, I almost got in trouble with not being out of that car in time. But anyway, we made it. Then the novelization of the movie where they change even more than that. Oh yeah. Let's go, we're diving out. Scary, huh? Too late for that now. Why did you come along anyway? Because there ain't no time for that. Okay, I'm ready. Here I go. You don't care if I go first? A leader stays till the end. Get on with it. Cloud, don't get your spiky ass hurt. This mission's just started. Then Spirits Within. Oh yeah, they do. Spirits Within had potential, but it completely just fell flat. Because she wants to get all up in Cloud's business. Oh, you got that right. Good. So far, everything's going as planned. Don't let your guard down. We still gotta get to the Reactor 5. Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse have gone on ahead of us. Come on, let's go. Reactor 5's just down the tunnel. Yeah, it is. But anyways, we're back in the whole fighting shebang right now. We get a... We actually hear, what's her name? Rachel A. Cook's voice clip for Tifa with the fighting. And I think that the one for Cloud was done by Steve Behrens, too. Using that Silk ability, that does slow down the characters quite significantly. Even though I haven't even said it during this whole live stream, but hopefully everybody's having a great night tonight. And I know that Fighter Chaos and myself and 16-Bit Jeff, as well as Visible Ninja, we're going to be playing a lot of Shenmue tomorrow, so that way we can get closer to closer to the end. And sorry if my commentary is really not the best right now when I play games like this. Usually, when I'm playing an RPG like this, I tend to, be more level-headed with my commentary. But when playing something frantic, like a fighting game, it's really hard to stay focused on, speaking from what comes from your heart. If that makes any sense. Whoop. The guys from behind. Jerks. You can see that some of the character models for the enemy, or some of the models of the enemies have remained unchanged, because there are certain enemy models that have not been fixated yet, or fixed yet for the mods. But unfortunately, there's really not a lot you can do about that. Freaking Wi-Fi, I'm still here. Well, yeah, because your Wi-Fi is giving you a lot of trouble. I still remember Fighter Chaos. It's all cool, dude. I think you missed it the first time I was talking, Fighter Chaos, but I was explaining some of the similarities between Japanese RPGs in general, as well as fighting games in general, with how companies, how they're trying to cater more to the casuals, but that's really not... from the video that came from Maximilian Dude, when I was explaining how the fighting game industry, or fighting games within the industry, how they have been too nerfed in this day and age, and I definitely agree with where he's coming from. And at the same time, I can see it being in a similar vein to that of role-playing games in general, where the more ambitious they get, that the less that they seem to be doing with bringing about a lot of content. My Marvel Legends figures finally got here. I've been waiting for these for a while. Oh, cool. Hopefully they turn out great for you, Lord Doom. So yeah, as you can see, we're in the Sector 5 reactor, and it's pretty much just a copy and paste of Sector 1's reactor, the Mako reactor, but there are some noticeable, subtle differences to their designs. When they try to cater to the cattle, but instead of streamlining, they just really dumbing things down like the Elder Scrolls. Yeah, JRPGs and Western RPGs too. Yeah, exactly. It's like doing that whole thing where you're trying to cater to the Western, to casuals with dumbing down things and just and nerfing them for all they're worth. It's like that's not really an evolution of games in general, or the genre in general, because that's just dumbing down the entire experience, and you're losing a lot of legacy customers as well as a new audience, because you need to have a fine balance between difficulty, mechanics, characters, content, just the whole 9 yards. Toxic waste. I mean, same thing with Japanese RPGs, as I said, that you gotta have, you can't just have eye candy all the time, or flashy visuals, like what they did for Final Fantasy X and X-2. You gotta have, inspirational stories, creative worlds, memorable characters, and, compelling soundtracks, as well as inventive gameplay mechanics, and a good plethora of content. I mean, if you want a more recent iteration of Final Fantasy that actually does well in a lot of those things, then take a look at something like Final Fantasy XIV Online after A Realm Reborn released. A lot of the stuff that they bring about for that game, it's just it adds on top of the experience with what makes the game so appealing with every new expansion that comes out. They just seems like they continuously build upon the game with every new expansion that they come off of, and it just keeps getting better and better. I mean, Landgrosser is the way to do it, right? It's on mobile, but that game is a real strategy RPG. It's not a cakewalk. It's streamlined where you can understand it, but the challenge is still there for you. Exactly. I think the worst example of that was the switch from Dragon Age to Dragon Age 2. They completely got rid of armor equips for everyone but your main character. I hated that. Yeah. Dragon Age 2, it was... ugh. It's terrible. Dragon Age 2 is a really big disappointment. And you can probably say the same thing for Anthem as well. It's like, what went through BioWare's mind when they worked on that game? Yeah, and even the story was terrible in Dragon Age 2. It's like, after Dragon Age, it's just everything about BioWare as a company started to go downhill. It's like the first Dragon Age Origins was like the last great product from BioWare before they slowly started going downhill because of EA shenanigans. If your main character is offered a chance to just leave the story, and I, as the player, can't think of a reason to not, then you have a bad story. Yeah, exactly. I mean, when they're in the story, they gotta have a reason why they're there. But giving that option where they could just leave the story, that's, yeah, that's bad. Of course, the game doesn't let you because plot. Exactly. For real, it was like you were playing something inconsequential. Oh wait, you were in Dragon Age 2. Exactly. And if you want an even more genuine example of just how trash tier that the whole genre is, or RPG genre is, for, you know, trying to dumb down things just to appeal to more casuals, then take a look at something like Fallout 4, or even Fallout 76. The games that are the epitome of garbage. Why? Because of one person only, by the name of Todd Coward. Jesse said that all three of us had to push these buttons simultaneously. Oh, try it again. Dang it. Oh, I was too late. There we go. When I was recording footage of the PlayStation version of this game, when I was doing the whole Final Fantasy retrospective episode about Final Fantasy VII, I was actually able to, you know, push the button once and we all synced at the same time. So that's like one of the instances where I got lucky with Fallout 4 did one thing right. It made power armor feel like an actual mech suit as opposed to just heavy armor I pulled out of my inventory. Yeah, I guess you could say that's true, Lord Doom. But Fallout 4, it's just... everything else about that game, it's just like... ugh. I mean, seriously. Fallout, the other Bethesda IP that's dumbed down instead of actually streamlining. I agree with Lord Doom, power suit though. Oh yeah, you could say that about the power suit. I can definitely agree to that. You know, more in retrospect. Or if you want a game that treats itself as a cookie-cutter JRPG, where there's really no heart and soul to it, then take a look at something like Inuyasha and The Secret of the Cursed Mask, or even that DS game that came out, what was it called? Secret of the Divine Jewel or whatnot? Yeah, just take a look at those games. Ugh. Bad RPGs. Now, for, like, RPGs that actually still do well in this day and age... Now, actually, before I get back to that, I just want to say that, there are certain I mean, when I say that Final Fantasy games, when I say that they've dumbed down the experience just to appeal more to a wider audience, I can say that while it is true to a lot of degrees, but there is a part where... they actually make the games for a completely different reason, and they can be very engaging for different reasons because all of them don't really follow the same. I mean, they don't really build upon each other with every new installment, because with every new game, they always tend to wipe the slate clean by revamping everything from like certain mechanics and all that to where they can actually be more engaging in their own rights. But if you want a game that's traditional, that actually does well with building itself upon each and every installment, then take a look at something like Dragon Quest. Because with Dragon Quest, they constantly build upon every game with every new installment, and the experiences are like just awesome. And with the recent release of Dragon Quest XI being, continuing that tradition, it's like, I just couldn't even be any more happier. And Maximilian, dude, even though you may not be watching, you definitely need to be giving... you definitely need to be giving Dragon Quest more love. Just saying that there really is no appeal because... I mean, you're just saying that it doesn't appeal to you because there really isn't anything that's substantial to them. I believe that is where you have completely drawn crossed the line. Because there's more to Dragon Quest than just, its art style. Dragon Quest is great. I wish more people like Max understood its impact on the industry. Exactly. I mean, Final Fantasy has its own impact, so does Dragon Quest. Now, also, if you want a game that... and also another game that you want to talk about that's dumbed down from, like, its original game or original collection of games into a new installment, then take a look at Golden Sun Dark Dawn. That game has been dumbed down to hell over the Game Boy Advance iterations. And when they... it's just... They dumbed down the difficulty. They did not really... They did not really feel like that they were that challenging. And the games felt like carbon copies of the old series, or the older games on the Game Boy Advance, instead of, you know, going for a lot more new. Man, yeah, those GBA Golden Sun games were awesome. Yeah, they are. And here I'm hoping that Camelot Software Planning will learn their mistakes with what they did with Golden Sun Dark Dawn whenever they make a fourth game, and they go back to what made the original two games on the Game Boy Advance so great. Gameplay-wise. Gameplay-wise, mechanics, adding in a lot more new, while, you know, still maintaining true to themselves and the franchise. For those of you who are wondering what I'm doing, I'm actually trying to get to level 13 right before the boss fight with Airbuster. And I'm playing this on my Xbox One controller on the PC, which is pretty much the only Xbox One controller I can use for my... I mean, which is the only controller I use for my PC, even though I don't have an Xbox One. One of the things I loved about Gold Sun was that if your party members died, they were gone for good. It was just the game telling you want your entire party to... Well, it wasn't... actually, Lord Doom, if your party members died, they were gone for good. I think you're actually referring to Fire Emblem, because when it came to party members, you could actually, in Golden Sun, you could still revive them with either items, or you have to take them to the sanctuaries in order to revive them from the head priests within those temples. Because with the old Fire Emblem games, it's that if your party members died, then they were gone for good for the rest of the game. But the Golden Sun games, I really don't think they were like that. Another game that I felt that really dropped the ball when it came... Yeah, it was Fire Emblem. I get those mixed up a lot. Not the games themselves, just the names. Yeah. But if there was another game I feel that that really dropped the ball with its execution, that didn't really do well, in my own opinion, and then it would have to be... what? Which one am I thinking of? No, it's something. Oh, yes, it's the Tales games. The ones that were actually produced by Hideo Baba before his departure from Bandai Namco after Tales of Zestiria release. Because when it came to Tales games in the past, they always had a mixture of different ideas that they go for, and they always, especially when it came to the story, the gameplay mechanics, and everything. They mostly, and when it came to Hideo Baba, he did still maintain that feature within the games when it came to evolving the gameplay and, you know, doing lots of new things to make them different, make the games different from one another. But I felt that the biggest Achilles heel that he had going for when it came to the Tales games that he did, where he was the head producer, was that he made the game stories have, like, the theme of friendship being, like, a major crutch. Like, it's I wouldn't say a major crutch, but, like a major hook to the storyline, to where anything that the characters are trying to find out, it's like that the whole thing with friendship being the answer to everything. It's like, no, you could be more creative than that, than just maintaining to that same shtick. I mean, that's what made games like I mean, having different themes and stuff, like Tales of Vesperia, Tales of Symphonia, Tales of the Abyss, that's what made those games so great. It's not because of them sticking to a similar theme with what's been done in the past. It's because they've actually differentiated themselves by trying out new things that's been done, and the satisfactory conclusions and the satisfactory developments that were brought about in those games, they were just incredible. But when it came to games that Hideo Baba mainly produced after, I mean, by the time he became the head producer of the franchise, it's before his departure, they just felt underwhelming. I mean, there were some good games, like, I mean, gameplay-wise, like Tales of Grace's F, as well as and even Tales of Exilia. But when it came to games like Exilia 2, as well as Tales of Zestiria, Hideo Baba just completely dropped the ball, big time. I will beat this boss through the power of friendship, also through weapons, because I spent 20 hours grinding before this. Yeah, that's a good way to explain it there, Lord Doom. But anyway, but when it came to the last Tales game that Hideo Baba worked on before his departure, Tales of Zestiria, that game I completely despise, because it didn't really try to be innovative with what it did as a game. Or trying to innovate itself as a new game in the series with new themes, new gameplay mechanics and stuff. It just felt like it had an identity crisis where, like, the ideas that they were trying to accomplish were good on paper, but they were not executed properly. Like the weapons in the game that you get for every character. It's like, any weapon that you get, you couldn't even tell if it was either stronger or weaker than the last one. When it comes to weapons in role-playing games, I like it where there's linearity between which weapon is weak and which one is the strongest, because that helps you get through a game much more efficiently when you figure out, you know, those certain intricacies towards those variables in the game. Nothing in RPGs will beat the grind. It's the most powerful weapon in existence. Got that right, Lord Doom. Getting the Lionheart in FF8 was something. Oh yeah, it is, especially when you had to get all those Rendering Light was created. Oh, Rendering Light. Yes, that's Blade Beam, isn't it? Okay, let's check it out. Yeah, Rending Light. Yeah, that's Blade Beam. So I got the level 2 limit break for Cloud. I mean, getting all those pieces of junk just to grind Squall's ultimate weapon in that game, yeah, that was completely interesting. But as long as you got all the Guardian forces, then that pretty much made that experience a lot more bearable with trying to get his ultimate weapon. But after that, it's like, ugh, it was complicated. Not only that, but I like seeing a direct relation in how my stats change. I'm one of those guys that will spend hours in a stat screen just messing with gear. Doing Renzo Kukun with that was so awesome. Oh yeah, it was. Because and you know, Lord Doom, going back to what you said about you know, seeing a direct relation on how your stat changes, I'm one of those guys who spend hours in that stat screen just messing with gear. And exactly, because it shows, you know, with the types of pieces of equipment that you pick up, that you can actually see how much stronger you become with just those new little extras that you've just obtained. But Tales of Zestiria did nothing like that. It's just there was a lot of there were a lot of mechanics that Hideo Baba brought about with that game that just were just an utter mess that I just felt completely destroyed the experience for me. Which is why I felt that him stepping down from his new studio at Square Enix and then leaving Square Enix altogether after his game after being with him for 2 years and not getting his game in full works, it's like, yeah, you really dropped the ball on there, buddy. I'll give it a look. Well, you can definitely give it a look if you want, Lord Doom, but I guarantee you are not going to be satisfied with the end results when you play that game. It is bad. If you want a better game after Zestiria, then play something like then play Tales of Berseria, because that game is a much better improvement over Zestiria. A vastly superior game by a mile. And I'm kind of curious to know how Tales of Arise is actually going to be when it releases next year. I'm definitely looking forward to that game, seeing how they completely change everything from the ground up with that experience. I think you make Langris or Kyle. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, never mind. But yeah, try Tales of Berseria when you get a chance, or any of the Tales games if you have not, Lord Doom. Speaking of their continuing the trails of the crossover with a part 2. Oh, for Langrisser? Which Trails game are they covering? Is it Trails in the Sky still, or did they go to Trails of Cold Steel? Or Trails to Zero? Tales of Berseria is good. Yeah, it's really good. I've played 3 of the Tales games so far, Symphonia, Abyss, and Vesperia. Lord Doom, you give yourself a pat on the back because those games are phenomenal. Oh, it's Trails in the Sky still. Oh, okay, so do they still have Estelle and Joshua Bright as being the only characters you can get through the gacha system, or did they have any of the other ones that are a part of it? And speaking of Trails of Cold Steel, I think I already made mention of this before, but I am definitely looking forward to Trails of Cold Steel 3 when that releases in the next couple months. Even though I had my beef with, well, I mean, when it comes to Nipponichi Software America, actually. Oh, now it's Leonhardt. Oh, okay, cool. Like I said, even though I have my beef with NIS America being the ones to do the publishing rights on most of Nihon Falcom's games now, since Xseed is not really that big of a company, and with NIS America bringing about Trails of Cold Steel 3 to the United States, I could definitely see them doing a better job with that game when it comes out, because from what I gather, the 4 people who were originally part of the localization team for the Trail series during their time at Xseed, they're still handling Trails of Cold Steel 3, so I could definitely see that game actually doing just fine as is. But I really hope that NIS America won't try to meddle with Nihon Falcom's magic sauce when it comes to delivering their games on any type of platform, whether it be PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, or even something like the PC, because when it comes to PC games, NIS America is really crap tier when it comes to their PC ports. Whoops. After I finish this battle, then I will continue where I left off, and we will go up against Airbuster. Because we still need to finish up with getting over to the Sector 5 slums, and then we will complete this live stream session until tomorrow night. Alright, we got Tifa the level 12. I think we should be okay with everybody. Or should I wait until I get Cloud to level 14? Actually, I'll just wait till I get Cloud to level 14. Besides, he's really close. And if you're wondering if I'm going to get all the limit breaks for all the characters, then yes, that's something I'm going to do too. So I'll be putting in a lot of time with grinding a character's attributes in order to get them to get their limit breaks. And you can kill them with magic really fast in order to get their limit breaks much quicker. They're level tier ones. But when it comes to other Japanese RPGs that I really like in this day and age, then I would say something like the Xenoblade franchise, as well as Octopath Traveler and the ones done by Tokyo RPG Factory, and even the Trails games, the more recent ones. Those are the ones that I really like in this day and age, in the modern age, that is. Even the Ys games still remain traditional, and they still do really well. Especially with Ys 8 that released recently, and hopefully that Ys 9 will continue that trend when it comes out. Should be coming out soon in Japan, but I think it'll be next year until we get it in the United States. Go ahead and use that tin on everybody. Okay, let's go find ourselves a huge techno soldier, shall we? This way! Uh-oh, Shin-Ra military stopping us. Shin-Ra guards? What's going on? Trap. Yep, we got the bigwig President Shin-Ra here. Ah, you must be that rabble. What's its name? Avalanche! And don't you forget it, you're Shin-Ra, huh? It's been a while, Mr. President. Been a while? Oh, it's you. The soldier who joined this avalanche or whatever. Only those exposed to Mako have that glow in their eyes. Tell me, traitor, what is your name? It's Cloud. You'll have to forgive me. I can't be expected to remember every soldier's name. You would have to be another Sephiroth. Ah yes, Sephiroth. A brilliant soldier. Perhaps too brilliant. Sephiroth? I'm sure you want to say it right now, Fighter Cows. Sephiroth is a bee! Ah! You get what I'm talking about. Don't give... Yep. Oh yes, indeed. The fireworks display will prove rather expensive. And all to deal with a few maggots. Maggots? You call us maggots? Huh. Funny how President Shin-Ra calls them maggots now, as he calls them vermin in the original translation for the US. All that Shin-Ra's done, parasites killing the planet, and you're the biggest of all. Now all you can do is stand there talking a load of crap? I'm afraid I've grown weary of entertaining you. I'm a very busy man, so if you'll excuse me, I have dinner I must attend. A dinner? Don't give me that! I ain't even started with you yet! Not to worry, I've made some arrangements. A playmate for you all. Oh, we get to play with something? Yep, here we have Airbuster. Allow me to introduce you. This is Airbuster, a prototype mobile unit. The weapons department created him. I'm sure the data it records in your battle together will be of great use to us. Mobile unit? So no longer Techno Soldier or anything like that. Now, you really must excuse me. I wish I had a weapons department. Yeah! Yo, Cloud, we gotta do something. Cloud, help! Is this from Soldier? No way, it's just a machine. I don't care what it is, I'm gonna bust it up for good. You got that right, Barrett. So yeah, we will actually be the first ones to attack Airbuster because he's surrounded by us. And you can actually see that whichever side we attack Airbuster on, we'll actually have the bigger advantage. We'll have a really good advantage when fighting against this guy. Swing first, robot. Swing first. Yeah. We got it. That was quick. And here I selected reasonable difficulty for this boss. Grenade bomb was created, so Barrett is now at his level 2 limit break. We gotta get out of here! Can't you do something? Not a damn thing. Cloud, you have to live. You can't die. There's so much I have to tell you. I know, Tifa. Hey, you gonna be okay? Put on a brave face. Don't worry about yourself. I'll be alright. Take care of Tifa. Okay, Cloud. Sorry I've been a jerk. Stop talking like this is the end. Right then. Later. Yeah, don't worry. Cloud's not gonna die. But for him to fall that great of a height, surprised that he'd still be alive after that. Are you alright? Can you hear me? Yeah. Back then, you got away with it. Only grazed your knees. Back then? Cloud is dead. Game over now. Cloud is dead. Game over now. And that's when Do the Mario shows up by Captain Lou Albano from the Super Mario Bros. Super Show. What about this time? Can you get up? Back then? This time? Worry about your body for now. Let's give it a shot. Oh, you're moving! How do you feel? Ooh, that's a relief. Slowly now, little by little. Hello? Yeah, I'm getting there. Hey, who are you? Hello? Similar scene that we've seen here before, but of course they recreated it in Crisis Core. Are you okay? This is a church in the slums, Sector 5. You fell straight out of the sky. It gave me quite a scare. I fell? The roof and the flower bed must have broken your fall. You're lucky. Flower bed? Is this yours? Spring up into action, Cloud. You're just like Zack Fair. Sorry about that. Oh, don't worry. The flowers are quite resilient, and this place is special too. I really do like the retranslation from this mod. It actually brings about freshness to the whole game, and it actually is more true to itself than it was back in 1997. You heard it here. Falling from a great height is fine, as long as you land on flowers. Yes. The power of flowers save everything, Lord Doom. We meet again. Yeah, we do. Have you forgotten? Yeah, I have met you before. Yeah, you were selling flowers. Oh, I'm so happy. So happy. Thanks for buying a flower. You have some materia, don't you? I have one too. Materia isn't rare at all these days. But mine's special. It doesn't do anything. Oh, I'm sure it does something. You just haven't even realized it yet, Aerith. Doesn't do anything. You sure you know how to use it? No, it's not that. Anyway, I don't mind that it's useless. I just feel safe wearing it. My mother left it to me. Say, I feel like talking. Are you up to it? After all, we did meet again. Sure, why not? Good, wait here there a moment. I have to tend to the flowers. I won't be long. You gotta tend to the flowers, but we still need to talk to you, lady. You haven't even told us your name yet. Just a little longer. Oh. Come to think of it. We still don't know each other's names, do we? Oh, they maintain tradition where she is called Aerith and not Eris. Aerith, the flower lady. Nice to meet you. The name's Cloud. My job's... well, I do a bit of everything. Oh, a jack of all trades. I do what needs to be done. What's so funny? Why are you laughing? I'm sorry, it's just... As they're so... Reno, are you there, dude? I think you're supposed to pop up from the door there. Wow, don't let it get to you. Oh, there he goes. Hey, Cloud, does your job include being a bodyguard? You are a jack of all trades. I suppose. Then get me out of here. Take me home. Alright, but I don't come cheap. Let's see. I'll go on a date with you. Okay. I don't know who you are, or where you're from, but... Or do I? I think you do. Oh yeah, I do know you. That uniform. Hey, little lady. This dude's a bit weird, eh? Shut up, Shin-Ra lapdog. Mr. Reno, should we sort him out? I haven't decided. Cloud, no, stop. I don't want you all ruining my flowers. Fine. It's time for us to make our escape. The exit's back here. So yeah, as I said, when it comes to the remake, I'm kind of wondering whether or not Quentin Flynn is going to reprise his role as Reno. Did you see that? His eyes. Mock eyes. Never mind. Come on, back to work. Back to work, eh? And... don't trample on the flowers, yeah? Mr. Reno, you just stepped on her. She's gonna go crazy. Probably. But Reno doesn't even give a crap in the world. There they are. I always really like this theme. The theme of the Turks. It just really sounded awesome with the noir vibe that Nobuo Uematsu went into creating this theme. Wasn't really a big fan of the arranged versions of the Turks theme in the outings done by Takeharu Ishimoto. When it comes to Before Crisis and Crisis Core. I mean, they weren't bad per se, but it's just they weren't really my cup of tea. Okay, let's ooh. So I gotta fight some of you up here. Hedgehog pies. I'm quite far back, too. Let's, change positions here. That way we can actually have an even fighting distance to go up against you guys. Okay, you asked for it. Braver on your butt. I always found it so satisfying with that Braver move. It just... so awesome how Cloud pulls it off. Yes, push the barrel. Stop that guy! Oh gosh, that's gotta hurt. We can even keep running up and down here in case if we need to, you know, try to grind Cloud a little bit. Oh, here comes another one. Yes, push the barrel. Yep. That didn't even look painful as the first one who got crushed by the barrel in the, from all the way to the top. Because like I said, getting crushed from that barrel all the way up, that looked pretty painful. Okay. Oh, oh, okay, there she is. Yep, here he comes. So go ahead and push this barrel, and then that should take care of the other Shin-Ra lapdog. So yeah, that takes care of the grunts that are in this place. Now we can get out of this church. And what do you know, Aerith can actually jump over the gaps too. This way. One of the things I really like about this game is just the different angles that that you can see from the pre-rendered images. It just, even though those are still frames taken from actual cinematic CG cutscenes that Square made beforehand, it just they actually still look great, even as just pre-rendered backgrounds for the fields. Okay. Yeah, it's just the different angles that they have for, you know, the old PS1 JRPGs back in the day. It's just, they were really awesome to look at, and just how the characters moved around in those fields, like this game, Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX, and even Legend of Dragoon. That's funny. I heard you have what it takes to be in Soldier. Oh, you're terrible. Ah, are you in Soldier? I used to be. How'd you guess? Your eyes, that strange glow. That's the mark of Soldier. Those who have been irradiated with Mako. But how do you know about that? I just do. You just do? Yeah. Come on, let's go, bodyguard. Okay, I think the save point is coming up pretty quickly over here. And then once we hit the save point, then that's when we'll actually close off this live stream for tonight. I think we made actually really good progress tonight with where we're supposed to be. Or where we're supposed to stop. Yeah, there's the save point right there. Fight some of the hardest enemies in the Sector 5 slums. I think that's Andrea Bowen's voice clip for Aerith there, if memory serves me correctly. Okay. Yeah, there we go. I'll go ahead and I'll hit the save point, and we can save our progress here. Go ahead and equip that titanium bangle to increase our defenses a little bit. Okay, do I have an iron? Yeah, I do have an iron bangle you can use. So let's go ahead and equip some of this materia on you, so that way you have some. And go ahead and save our progress here, so that way we can actually start a new save. And then, yeah, take it at that. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and close off tonight's episode right here. Well, I hope you guys really enjoyed tonight's episode as much as I did, and I know it may not seem like that was much for me to go through, but hey, we did make a lot of good progress here and there, and I really hope that tonight's live stream gave you a good glimpse with what my live streams are going to be going forward with Final Fantasy VII. You know, we will be done with this game right before Final Fantasy VII Remake hits, but, you know, just something just to tide you all over. Anyway, if you like me as a content creator, you can follow me on youtube.com/RRPG Reviews, where I do my reviews, my retrospectives, and my 2 cents videos. Don't know when I'll exactly be returning to the 2 cents videos or the reviews, as anything could come up, but right now I'm still working on episode 10 of my Final Fantasy retrospective. I'm almost done with the voice clips, as I only have a couple more that I need to finish up. One that I need to edit since I already have it recorded, but just one more that I need to create. And then after that, after I get done with that voice clip and then finish up recording with Final Fantasy Type 0, then that's when I can get started with post-production of episode 10. But not only that, but I can also get some other videos and other footage from YouTube of gameplay footage from Final Fantasy 13 or even Final Fantasy 13-2, Lightning Returns, or even Final Fantasy Type 0 HD. But you could also find me on Double RPG's Livestream archive on YouTube. I think it's under the name youtube.com/Double RPG Gamer for Solo. If memory serves me correctly with how the link is supposed to be, because that's what I originally called the live stream, or I originally called that YouTube channel because I wanted to do Let's Plays under that. But since I am exporting my live streams from here onto my YouTube through that YouTube page, then all of them are going to be going to that YouTube page from here on out. So just a little FYI with where that's going. And so yeah, be sure to tune in tomorrow night, same time as tonight, so that way we can get back on track with Final Fantasy VII, the original, with the cool mods that you all just saw in this live stream for tonight. And you can also join me, Fighter Chaos, 16-Bit Jeff, Invisible Ninja of the Geek Fighters tomorrow afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, where we will be going through more Shenmue on the Sega Dreamcast to continue our commemoration of the Sega Dreamcast. Its 20th anniversary since it released in 1999 in the United States, and 2019 is the system's 20th anniversary here in this country. So that ought to be a lot of fun, and hopefully we should be getting closer to the end of that game. Hopefully. Not exactly sure if we'll make it at the end, but hopefully we'll make it right at the end. But anyway, guys, hope you really enjoyed what you saw tonight, and be sure to tune in tomorrow as we will be playing more Final Fantasy VII Remake, or Final Fantasy VII on the PC. Hopefully we will actually get to get from where we are all the way to, I would say, maybe the Shin-Ra headquarters, or like the first parts of the Shin-Ra headquarters, or somewhere around there. But anyway, guys, I hope you all have a good night. Hope you had a lot of fun like I did tonight, and I'll see you tomorrow for another a good time here for Double RPG live streams with Final Fantasy VII on the PC. So to sign off, I am Double RPG, and I'll see you tomorrow night. So this is Double RPG signing off by saying Godspeed, and game on gamers, piccolo poppin' bottles, y'all, and peace out.